Okay. So we have 29 to 40, or 29 to 39. We have 40 to 50, and
51 to 61.
61.
62.
Okay. The frequency we had, I think we had, was it 2?
Yes, sir.
2, 2,
3.
and then we had 16. Yeah.
The 29 to 40 is 3.
It's 3, okay.
29 to 39 is 3, sir.
Okay, thank you. Good. Yeah, so that is how you construct the frequency distribution table. So when you look on the table, clearly, this table tells us that we have the highest frequency occurring, okay, between 51 to 61 on the table. So it means that a number of people in the class, the modal score obtained by students in the class
51.
is 51 to 61. In very simple terms, we will say that a lot of people scored between 51 to 61. You understand? That is what we are saying. Now, another way we can express this frequency distribution is what we call as relative frequency. Okay, so we can re-express this as relative frequencies. And relative frequencies are obtained using the formula, the frequency of the group. So the frequency of that category over the total observation. Okay. And sometimes you want to express the relative frequency in percentage. So we can multiply by 100 and then we leave it in percent. Because 100% means 100 over 100. Good. So let's see how this is calculated. So for the first class, the frequency is 2. So we have 2 over the total number of observations is what? 40. Okay, over 40. So it's going to be 2 divided by what? 40. Okay, so let's do that calculation for me. 2 goes here, you get 2, 0. So that's 1 over what?
40.
20, which is 0. What? 0.05. Okay, so the relative frequency is going to be what? 0.05. Good. For the next one, is going to be 3 over 40, which is going to be what? 0. What? 0.06 recursive. Can you check that for me?
0.75.
0.075.
Yeah, recursive.
5 times 100.
Good. The next one will be 6 over 40, which is what? 0. What? 0.12. Yes, can I have your answer? 1, 2, what?
6 over 40 is 0.15.
0.1.
5.
1.5. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Then we have 16 over 40.
16 over 40 is 0.4.
So we got 0.40.
4.
Okay. So if we are to calculate everything, okay, if we had all the groups here and you find all the relative frequency, well, you add them up, you should get 1. Okay. So if you add all the relative frequency, that is, if you construct a relative frequency for the remaining groups, which we've not written, and you add, you should get 1. The same way, if you decide to leave the RF in terms of percentages, meaning you are multiplying by 100, this will be 5%. This will be 6.6%. This will be 6.6%. This is 5.0. This is 1.15.0%.
15.0%.
That this will be
40.
40.0%. Okay. And then if you do that for the remaining groups and add, you should get 100%. Yeah. I hope that is clear.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Good.
but you know, the Zoom keep disconnecting and reconnecting sometimes.
Yeah, no problem. I'll try and send the lecture to you
Okay.
after the presentation. Okay. Then finally, we also want to look at the concept of, we have like 15 minutes to go. We also want to look at what we call as the boundaries.
Okay.
So what we constructed was the limits. Okay, we want to look at the class boundaries. The class boundaries. Okay, so the boundary is, in practical terms, halfway between the lower limits for this class, for the next class, and the upper limit of the previous class. Okay, whilst the upper limits, okay, so you see the boundary, two countries share a common boundary, right? So the same way, two
Right.
categories will share a common boundary. So if you want the upper boundary for this class, that upper boundary is the same as the lower boundary for the next class. And it's just the upper boundary for this class is going to be 28 plus 29. That is halfway between the two. Okay, 28 plus 29 over 2, which is 28.5. Okay, that is for the lower boundary. And then if you want the, like I said, so this is the upper boundary of this class, but will also be the lower boundary of this class. Okay, good. So let's, sorry. So let's construct the class boundaries. So, now one more point. You clearly see that 28.5 just simply means we just added 0.5 to the upper limit here, and then on the other hand, subtracted 0.5 to the lower limit. So in constructing the class boundaries, you are just adding 0.5 to the upper limit and then subtracting 0.5 from the lower limit. So for the first class, it's going to be 18 minus 0.5, which will be 17.5 to 28.5. You get to the next class, like we said, they share a common living. So it's 28.5 to what? 39.5. The next class is what? 39.5 to 50.5. Then 50.5 to what? 61.5. So it means the next class will start at 61.5. Then another trick here is the intervals also remain 10. Eh? It's the same interval we are looking at over here. So when you look at it, this is 11, this is 11, this is 11. So in the next class, it's going to be 72.5. Okay. Yeah, so that is the last thing we wanted to look at. And I think it's left with the very last thing, which is the class midpoint. Okay, the class midpoint. The midpoint. Now the midpoint is just halfway between the class limits themselves, or halfway between the class boundaries. So if you want the midpoint just means middle point, okay? So the class midpoint for the first class is 18 plus 28 over 2. Okay, that is for the first class. Okay, so 18 plus 28 over 2, what do you get?
$23.
Yeah, so we get
23.
Good. So we have 23. Then the next one is going to be what? You have 29 plus
34.
39 over 2.
68. That's going to be 34.
34. The next one is going to be 45. Next one is going to be 56. Next is going to be 67. Now you ask yourself, how did I know it's the same intervals of 11? You see, we constructed using 11. So the same interval of 11, 11, 11, 11. Okay, so that is how we get the midpoint as well. So in summary, today we've looked at, do you have any question? Or let me wrap it up then, if there are any questions you ask. So in summary, we have looked at the types of variables or the types of data. In fact, we've looked at what statistics is, and the two main branches of statistics, which is descriptive and inferential. We've also looked at the difference between population and sample. Then we've looked at data and how data is arrived at, and the types of variables. We've looked at quantitative, qualitative. We've looked at other quantitative. We look at discrete, continuous. Qualitative, we have nominal, ordinal. Then we've also looked at their measurement. And then we moved on to frequency distribution, how to calculate it. We've talked about your number of classes, which is step 1. Step 2 is the range. Step 3 is to find the class width. Step 4 is to create the lower limit and the upper limit. create your tallies, create your frequency. Then you may want to, if required, you find the relative frequency, class boundaries, or the class midpoint. This is what we've done for today to cover topics 1 and 2. Any question?
Oh,
Good.
But we'll go through the notes so that we will get more.
Yes, so just go through the notes. There are more examples in the notes. So go through the notes.
Yes, sir.
And, it's fine. Yeah,
Thank you very much, sir.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Thank you.
on that note, we'll wrap up for today's class. See you all. Stay safe within the week. Make sure you have your sanitizers and your face masks on.
Yes,
oh,
sir.
See you. We call it a day.
Okay, sir.
Bye.
All right, sir.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.